Well, the summer break is now upon us. So all we've got left is just a review the Hungarian Grand Prix, or perhaps maybe we'll do some videos within the summer break if there's anything you would like us to look into, whether it be seeing how we're doing when it comes to our predictions and our random predictions we did at the start to see how we're doing on that. Considering the position of some of the drivers, I have a little bit of a fear that the random predictions might be even better than mine. We'll see. We'll see. Um, and maybe there's some other things we can look into as well. Maybe there's some bigger story things, but I think we've been covering quite a lot of the big stories over the reviews. But again, if there's anything you guys want me to have a look at in terms of just across the season, if there's a particular driver, if there's a particular team that you think, well, what's going on here, we might be able to do a deep dive into that. But let's focus on the Hungarian Grand Prix, and it's one of those ones where I found it quite a fascinating race. This was a fascinating race if you're talking about like sort of the late 2000s, early 2010s of the times when Kimi Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso were really starting to come to the fore. So, starting from like sort of 2006, where the races might not have been super exciting, but that it was still intriguing. And let's face it, I think if Oscar Piastri hadn't have locked up that second to last race, we'd have had a really fascinating last lap battle. I really do think that would have been tight and side by side. And we're talking about the Monaco without walls here. This is a really difficult track to overtake, and yet somehow we got overtake. So fair enough. But let's talk about those understated winners. And I feel like I'm sort of banging the drum about a couple of these drivers, especially. And I wanted to sort of like go a bit off piece when it comes to the big like sort of the winners of that. Yes, Gabriel Bortoleto again performed well. That's apart from the retirement that he did in the British Grand Prix. The past 4 races, he's been in the points, which that's the equivalent of a podium for anybody else. And a podium for Sauber is the equivalent of a win. So well done, Hulkenberg again. We like to celebrate that. We will never stop celebrating that. But I wanted to identify a team as the big winners of this race. Aston Martin. What just happened? Seriously, guys, what just happened? Let me point this out, right? So Aston Martin have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 races where they've scored points. Full stop. Their best race finish for this season was a 6th place for Fernando Alonso, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, it was Fernando Stroll in the first race. Their first double points finish was a 7th and a 9th. So to have a 5th and a 7th, their best ever race, wow. And I don't know whether it was by luck or perfect timing of sending the cars out or anything like that, but this was like it for the Saturday and the Sunday. They qualified well and they raced well. Fernando Alonso, yes, did his classic holding up drivers, and Fernando Alonso in Hungary does seem to be a dangerous combination if you're trying to overtake him. Just ask Lewis Hamilton from back in 2021. But yeah, it's incredible to actually see the performances of both drivers. Both drivers performed really well. Bortoleto splitting the two of them in 6th place, but yeah, really well. performed by both Fernando and Lance Stroll. Is this going to set the tone for the next few races? I don't know. Because the big thing for me is I don't understand where this has come from. This hasn't been where Aston Martin have slowly been improving their car. Because Belgian Grand Prix, they got a 17th and a 14th. Okay, Belgian Grand Prix was a weird race, but the Belgian Grand Prix results from last weekend, that's been closer to the norm of the drivers. So is this a circuit specific thing, similar to what Mercedes had last year? I don't know. But it's certainly looking like it might be a one-off. And for now, I'm just going to put it as this was an absolutely elite level performance from Aston Martin, whether it be the engineering, whether it be the strategy, whether it be the drivers. Everything just worked to perfection for Aston Martin. So really well done to the team for that. Now, there's going to be a lot of I don't knows in this episode. And now we come to the bit more negative I don't know. This team is like the Manchester United or the Liverpool or the Barcelona or the Real Madrid of football, in that whether they are performing well or not, the news always seems to be about them. In fact, the news is even more about them when they're not performing well, and no one understands why. So, of course, the rest of this is going to be about Ferrari. Now, let's start off with the confusing aspect of what happened in that race, and that is looking at Charles Leclerc. I don't think there's many of us that thought that Charles Leclerc had a hope in hell of winning a race. But I think there was a lot of us that thought he could get a podium out of this. So for him not to even get that, for him to get fourth place and be very critical on the radio, be very challenging on the radio, and for there to still be confusion over what has happened. Not great. Right now, the biggest theory seems to be over the danger of plank wear, similar to what happened in the Chinese Grand Prix. And that's a bit bothersome, really. Ferrari designed a fresh car for this season. Now, if a team's going to go all in, going to put in all their chips on something, you'd think that they've cracked it. That they've finally cracked the ground effects, and they finally know how to make the perfect Formula One car. They just know how to design it. Because this was it seems like an all-in from Ferrari. In the day, if you go to you see someone go all in on a poker hand, you think that means, especially because they're going all in, they've got a really good hand, and very few are going to beat it. And I know Ferrari are second in the standings, but to see them basically have a car that just can't do anything, that's... Is that an engineering problem? Is that a direction problem? Should Fred Vasseur have basically gone? I don't care whether you think you can make a good 2025 car. We've got to focus on 2026 because that's where we're going to get the 3-4 years of success. Is it a driver problem? In taking away Carlos Sainz, have they had to adjust the car in a different way to adapt to the new driver lineup that's going to go there? We'll discuss the incoming driver in a second, don't worry. But from the face of it, it looks like Ferrari have designed a brand new car that's worse than last season's. I don't look. Humans can make mistakes, right? This is the Formula One is one of those really weird sports where we are talking elite levels of knowledge to try and build these cars. There's a reason why one of the designers on the track, Adrian Newey, is earning such a huge salary. Is because the design of this car is almost as important as the drivers themselves. And because of that, I think mistakes can be made. Of course they can, right? At the end of the day, you've got 10 teams, not all 10 teams are performing well. Right now, only McLaren seems to have cracked it. Red Bull are struggling, so I suppose that Adrian Newey leaving has a part to play in that. Alpine are definitely struggling. Mercedes are struggling. You know, that team that used to design amazing cars, even they're struggling. They have a car that's very much a diva. Only likes a certain type of track or a certain type of climate or circumstance. So I suppose the question is, can we pinpoint it down in terms of a circumstance in the same way of Mercedes as to what's affecting Ferrari? Well, I don't know. Charles Leclerc said this is a one-off, but I can't see any sort of pattern to convince me that Hungary is the last one where this is going to happen. I mentioned that this is Monaco without walls, right? So is it a sort of a problem that the Formula One cars have, that the Ferrari cars have around tight and twisty tracks? Well, no. Look at Monaco, second and fifth. Okay, not great, but good, decent. You look at maybe it's to do with the fact that it has quite a lot of climbs and drops. You know, if you were to actually see it on the game, you can see that there is a steady climb that goes up in the first sector, and maybe it's got something to do with that, possibly. Well, you could maybe back it up with the Belgian Grand Prix, although that was a weird circumstance on its own, so you probably can't judge it on that because of the wet dry situation. China, not as much drops, I don't think, in China, and that's where they got disqualified. So, does that really support that argument? And nothing seems to add up in terms of like finishing. Australian Grand Prix was Charles Leclerc's worst finish. That was an 8th place, and that was down to the wet dry conditions, so that's fine. If you actually talk about dry races, I think Miami was the worst one. I suppose it's tight and twisty, but not crazy such. And then the next one being Imola. Okay, a bit of climbing there. Maybe it is down to the fact of if there is a large variation in height above sea level, that's when it has an impact on the drivers. Now, when are we going to be able to test that theory out? Is it going to be at the Netherlands Grand Prix? Possibly not. The Tarzan corner that does angles, and maybe that could have an impact. I think we will know for certain probably by the end of Azerbaijan Grand Prix. If we're in a situation by the Azerbaijan Grand Prix where the drivers are still struggling, complaining, or worst case scenario, even being disqualified, then maybe that is the issue. It is those sudden inclines and drops in racetracks that cause problems. But ultimately, it's an unknown. If I knew the problem with the Ferrari car, I would be working for Ferrari. Let's face it. And I don't. So that's the car. And now, this is the bit that I've been dreading. Some of you guys know that this guy is my favourite driver. I've said it quite a few times. And so, when Lewis Hamilton came out with those comments on Saturday after his poor qualifying, I don't mind saying that. Was it 12th he started? Finishing 12th? Saying, it's the driver, I'm useless. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Something's clearly not right. Something is clearly not right. I don't know what it could be either. I mean, it's so painful to watch, right? And there's so many people that are divided. Is it a case of he needs to leave the game before the game leaves him? Are we now getting to the point where, for Hamilton's sake, he needs to play around with it a bit more? Not play around with it, that's the wrong word. He needs to give next season a bash and then that's it. That's it. I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try my best to get some positivity going for any other Lewis Hamilton fans, or just those that don't like seeing a man appear, a man as decorated disappear beaten, right? The first things first is I want to focus on the here and now and why Hamilton might be feeling the way he is. He's clearly in a situation, firstly, where he's the new driver in a team. And the one time where this is different to Mercedes, apart from the fact that Hamilton is older, is the fact that, yes, Rosberg had got a win with Mercedes, but Rosberg wasn't the set driver in the team, right? There was openings for a race-winning driver to try and stamp their mark, right? But Leclerc's been in a championship challenging team. Yes, I know Ferrari dropped the ball in 2022, but ultimately they still had a good car, right? And Leclerc still got wins. Leclerc got wins in 2019 as well. So there's a bit more success from Charles Leclerc. And that was all happening while Lewis Hamilton was getting worse results. And maybe this has provided a culture in the Ferrari team where they've adapted. I'm not saying Hamilton being pushed aside, but they've adapted to Charles Leclerc's racing style and engineering style and driving style, and are finding it hard to adjust. Maybe they're even treating Hamilton like Carlos Sainz in that, well, they're similar drivers, they're similar car drivers, and we'll just deal with them the same way, which doesn't work, right? Every driver is different. But something for me, when I look at him, and I saw an interview, I can't remember what it was. It might have been the Sunday interview. Lewis Hamilton almost touched on almost the interactions within the team. Now, I don't think he's being isolated or bullied or anything like that, but I do think that there needs to be a bit more of an arm around maybe and seeing what's going on here. And that's why it was encouraging to see Fred Vasseur invite Toto Wolff into the Ferrari hospitality paddock. I don't know if you guys actually saw it on the Sunday, invited him in to basically go, what do we do here? How does Hamilton like it? What's a pep talk for Hamilton? What will help him? So that's nice to see. But I think there might need to be an adjustment and a culture change and a boost. And the summer break's going to help with that. If I was Ferrari, I'd be using this as an opportunity. Obviously, give Hamilton his own space, Lewis his own space, but still give the opportunity to talk to him and go, right, how do we let's start. How do we improve this? Forget about changing people. Just how do we change the atmosphere and the attitude to make things better for you? There's going to be some hard conversations. It's how it always happens. Whenever there is a chemistry battle, let's say, you have to get that to flow together. Because right now, it's not looking great for either situation. And Ferrari need Hamilton at his best. Hamilton needs Ferrari at their best. And they need to work together on it. And here's the thing, it can go one of two ways. We've actually even seen it over the past few years. And actually, it was another driver transfer that's inspired this. Let's start off with the negative of how this can go. I'm going to use the example Sebastian Vettel, another driver that performed well in his first season, performed exceptionally well in the next few seasons, winning multiple world championships, 4 world championships. At Ferrari, did decently and challenged for the title to a certain extent. And it seemed like wasn't looking too bad. And then it started looking really bad in 2020 when he was dropped from Ferrari so quickly, when he obviously struggled to get a place until it was obviously Aston Martin. And then the Aston Martin team just wasn't the team that was it being sold out to be. And Sebastian Vettel became disengaged. If you had asked anyone at the start of 2021 whether Sebastian Vettel would Sebastian Vettel would retire, they'd probably say, "Oh, in about 5 years' time." But the way in which the team was, and maybe the way he felt about himself, made him feel disengaged. So that's almost like a warning sign for Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton fans like myself that we could be coming to the last couple of years now. If this doesn't improve, if the atmosphere, the environment doesn't improve, that Lewis Hamilton could retire from Formula One to go do motorsport elsewhere. That's the warning. Now let's talk about the more positive. Here was a driver that came in for Sebastian Vettel. Fernando Alonso. You know, that driver that is now in his 40th year, I believe. Having fun. Complete change. This is somebody who is older than Lewis Hamilton, revitalised. And actually, you look at it, I'm pretty sure Fernando Alonso retired after the McLaren days. You know, when they were at their worst. And then came back. Found the love of Formula One again through Alpine. Then really found the love through Aston Martin because he could see that there was something special going on. And he even feels revitalised this season, despite Aston Martin doing terribly, because a certain Adrian Newey's joining the team. The right changes can revitalise a driver. And right now, Lewis Hamilton is at that crossroads of being revitalised or dropping away from it entirely. And right now, he's going down that route of dropping from it entirely. Not this year, but I suspect at the end of next year. But the right change, the right revitalisation, the right boost, the right feelings that, oh my goodness me, we have got an absolute world beater on our hands. That's enough. That'll be enough for Hamilton to smile again. Even if he doesn't get a world championship, even if it is the case that he's getting podiums all the time and so he's in the top 3 of the world championship again, you could feel that re-energize him and at least have his love of racing back. Which way is it going to go? I'd love to know your thoughts in this, whether you think we are coming up to basically Lewis Hamilton's swan song for this year and next year, or whether there is a chance for it to re-energize and change. But there's certainly questions ahead. And so that's it. First half of the season done. We've got a few weeks to go. I think, is it 4 weeks, I believe? Until the Dutch Grand Prix. 31st of August. Yes, 4 weeks. Just under 4 weeks, anyway. And I'm sure there's things that we can talk about in the meantime. If we have the opportunity to do so, we will. But yeah, until next time, guys.